they keep supporting us. Thank you.
We love you, Saga.
We love you guys.
What happens when the person you love most in the world becomes the exact reason you might not survive? I saw a video on TikTok recently that completely blew my mind and immediately gave me massive 90-Day Fiancé vibes. But the real-life stakes are so much darker and more twisted than anything you would ever see on television. We are talking about a viral saga involving a vibrant girl named Jenny, a devastating medical diagnosis, and her partner Sumit, who the entire internet is currently painting as the most manipulative villain of the year. Rumors suggest he's literally holding her back from a life-saving treatment just to secure his own ticket to America. It's the kind of toxic relationship drama that makes your blood boil, but the actual truth behind closed doors is going to shatter absolutely everything you thought you knew about this situation. Before we dive deep into this twisted rabbit hole and expose what is really going on, if you love deep dives into relationship, drama, viral mysteries, and untold stories, do me a huge favor. Hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you never miss an update on wild stories exactly like this one. There has been a massive amount of buzz online about this couple, with fans and amateur sleuths speculating that Sumit is running the ultimate long con. To understand how we got to this point of absolute chaos, you have to look at the tragic reality of Jenny's life right now. This wasn't some scripted television show. This is a raw, terrifying situation. Jenny was recently diagnosed with ALS, a cruel and rare condition that essentially traps you inside your own body. Reports claim that while her mind remains completely sharp and aware, the disease slowly shuts down every single muscle, stripping away her ability to move, speak, and eventually breathe on her own. When she first got this diagnosis, the ground was completely ripped out from under her. It's a ticking clock, and every single morning she wakes up feeling slightly weaker than the day before. The only shred of hope she had left was a highly exclusive clinical trial located in the USA. Getting into this trial was a miracle, a tiny sliver of light in an incredibly dark tunnel. All she had to do was get on a plane and go, but that is exactly where the story takes a dark and frustrating turn, and where the internet decided to absolutely tear her partner Sumit to shreds. It's been heavily reported across social media that Sumit is the sole reason Jenny hasn't left for the US yet. According to the viral videos circulating online, he has been acting incredibly strange, throwing bizarre tantrums and using every excuse in the book to delay her flight. People on Instagram and TikTok have been dissecting his every move, pointing out that his behavior perfectly mirrors those classic reality TV scammers who only care about getting a green card. The narrative online quickly shifted to accuse him of intense self-sabotage. Here is a guy who claims to love his partner, yet he is actively standing in the way of the one thing that could extend her life. Viewers of shows like 90-Day Fiancé know this script all too well. The foreign partner who uses a vulnerable American connection, or in this case, a U.S. medical opportunity, to force their way across the border. Rumors suggest Sumit flat-out refused to let Jenny travel without him, demanding that they wait until his own U.S. visa was approved. And we all know how notoriously slow and difficult the embassy process can be. Every single day wasted waiting for his paperwork is a day Jenny loses to her illness. The contradiction here is maddening. How can you claim to be deeply in love with someone while simultaneously playing Russian roulette with their life over a travel document? But the internet's outrage wasn't even the peak of this drama. The stakes reached an absolute boiling point inside a quiet, sterile hospital room just a few days ago. Details of this confrontation leaked online, and it paints a heartbreaking picture of a relationship completely fracturing under the weight of illness and suspicion. Jenny, feeling her body giving out and her patience wearing dangerously thin, finally snapped. The frustration, the raw anger, and the sheer terror of her fading health pushed her over the edge. When Sumit walked into her room for his daily visit, expecting the usual quiet afternoon, she completely broke down. Tears streaming down her face, she threw all her built-up resentment right at him. She demanded to know if he actually wanted her to just fade away into nothing. She laid it all out, crying about how much she loved him, but begging to know why he was acting like a massive roadblock to her survival. She screamed at him, asking why he couldn't understand that she was quite literally out of time. For anyone watching from the outside, or reading the leaked accounts of this fight, it looked like the ultimate credibility dilemma for Sumit. He was trapped in a corner of his own making. If he really loved her, he would put her on that plane tomorrow, right? By forcing her to wait for his visa, he was proving every single internet hater right. He was exposing himself as a selfish, calculated opportunist who cared more about his own immigration status than the heartbeat of the woman he called his soulmate. The financial and professional stakes of this delay are astronomical, which only makes Sumit's stubbornness look even more sinister. Clinical trials in the US are incredibly strict. If you miss your window, you lose your spot, and there are thousands of desperate people waiting to take your place in line. Jenny's family had already moved mountains to get her accepted, pulling every string and likely draining their resources just to secure the opportunity. The medical window is rapidly closing. Her physical decline isn't something that can be paused while an embassy clerk takes their sweet time processing a background check. Every morning Jenny wakes up, she realizes her hands are a little heavier, her legs a little less responsive. The sheer panic of feeling your independence slip away in real time is unimaginable. Yet, amidst all this terrifying physical and financial pressure, Sumit's only response was to dig his heels in deeper. To the outside world, this is the concrete example of a fatal behavioral flaw. It's the classic red flag of a toxic partner who prioritizes control and personal gain over the well-being of their significant other. People were flooding comment sections, begging Jenny's family to intervene, to physically drag her away from Sumit and put her on a flight alone. The court of public opinion had firmly slammed the gavel down, declaring Sumit a manipulator who was using a tragedy for his own American dream. But what the internet didn't know, and what Jenny was about to find out in that tense, silent hospital room, would flip this entire narrative completely upside down. The silence that followed Jenny's outburst in that hospital room was so heavy you could cut it with a knife. For anyone analyzing the leaked details of this confrontation online, this was supposed to be the moment the villain's mask finally slipped. Gossip channels and armchair psychologists on TikTok were having a field day, analyzing Sumit's behavioral flaws and declaring that his silence was just him calculating his next manipulative move. People assumed he was standing there trying to figure out a way to gaslight her, a classic move straight out of the toxic reality TV playbook. Viewers of shows like 90 Day Fiancé are practically trained to spot these red flags. The foreign partner gets called out, they have no logical defense, and so they either lash out or play the victim to regain control. Reports claim that Sumit was always seen as this stoic, intensely stubborn guy, the kind of person who never let his emotions show. So when his eyes started to turn red and tears began to well up, the immediate reaction from the internet was intense skepticism. Commenters tore into him, claiming this was a desperate, failed emotional appeal. They swore these were crocodile tears, a frantic attempt to keep his American dream alive by manipulating a fiercely vulnerable, dying woman into feeling sorry for him. The absolute audacity to cry when you are the one standing in the way of your partner's life-saving treatment is exactly the kind of inauthentic, hypocritical behavior that makes the internet sharpen its pitchforks. But as Sumit stood there, the reality of the situation began to fracture the completely manufactured online narrative. He didn't storm out, and he didn't launch into a defensive rant about how much he sacrificed. Instead, he took a slow, agonizing step toward her hospital bed. He reached out and grabbed Jenny's incredibly weak, trembling hands, holding them so tightly, it was as if he was trying to physically anchor her to the earth. When he finally spoke, his voice was violently shaking, and the words that came out of his mouth instantly shattered the entire selfish persona the world had assigned to him. Sumit looked her dead in the eyes and asked a question that completely derailed the conversation. He asked if she truly, deep down in her soul, believed that he wanted her to suffer. He told her that he loved her more than his own life, a statement that usually sounds incredibly cliché, but in this suffocating hospital room, it carried a terrifying weight. And then, he dropped a bombshell that absolutely nobody, not the internet sleuths, not Jenny's family, and least of all Jenny herself, saw coming. He revealed that the week prior, while Jenny was resting, her lead neurologist had pulled him into a private office for a closed-door meeting. There has been a lot of speculation about what goes on behind the scenes of terminal medical care, but what Sumit confessed next was deeply chilling. The doctor had given him the devastating truth about Jenny's specific progression with ALS. The grim reality was that the disease was moving significantly faster than they had initially let on. The neurologist explicitly warned Sumit that within a matter of weeks, perhaps even days, Jenny was going to completely lose the remaining strength in her legs and arms. She would lose the ability to walk, to feed herself, to bathe, and to transition from a bed to a wheelchair. Sumit, choking back sobs, laid it all out for her. He asked her, with completely raw vulnerability, how she was supposed to survive in the United States all by herself. If he put her on that plane tomorrow, she would be landing in a foreign country, completely isolated, with absolutely no family or support system waiting for her at the airport. Who was going to feed her when her hands stopped working? Who was going to carry her to the bathroom in the middle of the night? Who was going to sit by her side in a sterile clinical trial facility when the terrifying reality of her paralysis truly set in? This is where the thematic hypocrisy of the entire online outrage really comes into focus. You had thousands of people on social media screaming at Sumit to let her go, demanding that she fly to America to save herself, completely blind to the fact that sending her alone was essentially a death sentence wrapped in a bow of false hope. Sumit wasn't delaying the visa process because he was a scammer waiting for a free ride to the United States. He was stalling because he was absolutely terrified of her dying completely alone in a strange place, unable to even lift a cup of water to her own mouth. He confessed that he was staying awake night after night, relentlessly hounding the embassy, fighting through endless bureaucratic red tape, and taking every single ounce of public and private just so he could be there to be her shadow. He was willing to let her family, and the entire world hate his guts, as long as it meant he would be physically present to carry her when her own body finally gave out. He wasn't holding her back. He was desperately trying to build a safety net to catch her when she inevitably fell. The weight of Sumit's revelation hung in the air, creating a massive reality check that completely obliterated everything Jenny and the entire internet thought they knew. This is the exact moment where the brutal isolation of her situation finally set in. Reports from those close to the couple describe how all the fight instantly drained out of Jenny's body. She had spent weeks staring at her phone, reading comments from strangers online who convinced her that she was the victim of a classic reality television scam. The echo chamber of social media had painted this terrifying picture that her partner was her biggest enemy. But suddenly, staring into his red, tear-filled eyes, she saw the absolute truth. If she had listened to the online mob, if she had forced her way onto that airplane alone just to escape his supposed sabotage, she would have been flying directly into a waking nightmare. Imagine the sheer, terrifying isolation of waking up in a sterile, unfamiliar hotel room halfway across the globe, reaching for your phone to call a nurse, and realizing your arm simply will not move. Imagine the horror of being completely paralyzed in a foreign country where you are nothing more than a medical trial number, with absolutely no family, no friends, and no one to even hold your hand when the fear becomes too much to handle. The internet's loud, aggressive solution to her problem would have actually been her ultimate downfall. Sumit wasn't trying to trap her. He was desperately trying to shield her from the most horrific isolation imaginable. The intense backlash he had been receiving from viral TikToks and invasive Instagram threads meant absolutely nothing to him compared to the thought of Jenny suffering alone in the dark. He was willing to be the ultimate villain in everyone else's story just to be the caregiver in hers. The sheer hypocrisy of the online commentary community was staggering. People who tune into relationship dramas love to scream about red flags and toxic behavior, But when faced with a man making the ultimate, agonizing sacrifice of his own reputation to protect the woman he loves, the internet completely missed the mark. Sumit was carrying the devastating secret of her rapid decline entirely on his own shoulders. He didn't tell her what the neurologist said earlier, because he didn't want to steal away whatever tiny shred of hope she had left. He absorbed all of her anger, all of her resentment, and all of the public humiliation, simply because his love for her was infinitely stronger than his need to defend himself. This is the exact opposite of the superficial, clout-chasing behavior we are so used to seeing exposed online. This was raw, unconditional devotion playing out in the most tragic circumstances possible. Hearing the absolute desperation in his voice, Jenny could not speak. The massive wall of misunderstanding that had been building up between them completely shattered. She realized that his stubbornness wasn't about control, and his bizarre excuses weren't about stalling for a green card. It was the frantic, panicked behavior of a man trying to outrun a ticking clock while carrying the weight of the world. She leaned forward, resting her head against his chest, and began to cry all over again. But this time, it wasn't out of anger or the terrifying frustration of her illness. It was a profound, overwhelming release of gratitude. She was crying because she finally understood the depth of the love she had sitting right next to her. In a modern world where people will completely abandon their partners over minor inconveniences or chase fleeting internet fame at the expense of their relationships, here was a man who refused to let her face the end of her life by herself. This was the point of no return for both of them. There would be no more arguing about flights, no more listening to the toxic speculation of outsiders, and absolutely no more doubting his intentions. They were officially in this together, a united front against a disease that was trying to rip them apart. Moving forward, the couple has completely tuned out the noise of social media. Their only goal now is navigating the brutal embassy system together, fighting for that visa with a renewed, unbreakable bond. They are refusing to accept anything less than walking into that United States clinic side by side. It's a race against her failing body, but she is no longer running it alone. This entire saga serves as a massive wake-up call for anyone who thinks they can diagnose a relationship based on a 60-second viral clip or a few out-of-context rumors. The reality of human connection is so much deeper, darker, and more profoundly beautiful than any scripted television show or trending hashtag could ever capture. Jenny and Sumit proved that real love isn't about grand, cinematic gestures. It's about being willing to endure the absolute worst storms, even when the rest of the world is actively rooting against you. It completely changes how you look at the drama we consume every single day, doesn't it? The internet was so quick to villainize a man who was actually committing the ultimate act of selfless love. This story really makes you question how many other viral scandals and relationship takedowns we see online are actually hiding a deeply complex, heartbreaking truth behind the scenes. We are so conditioned to look for the scam, to find the manipulator, that we completely miss the raw humanity right in front of our eyes. What do you guys think about Sumit's massive secret and how the internet completely misjudged him? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below, because I am genuinely curious if you would have made the same incredibly tough choice if you were in his shoes. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the messy, complicated, and mind-blowing reality behind viral relationship drama, please make sure to smash that like button. It really helps push these untold stories out to more people. Do not forget to hit subscribe and ring that notification bell so you are always the first to know when we uncover the shocking truth behind the internet's biggest mysteries. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.